Have you ever noticed something ironic about toxic people? They think they're unpredictable. Like they're mysterious. Like there's some psychological riddle no one can solve. Here's the twist they never see coming. They're incredibly readable. Once you know what to look for, you can predict their next move before they even realize they're about to make it. The little jabs. The manipulative pauses. The fake confusion. The guilt trips. The reality flips. It's not chaos. It's not intuition. It's a script. And today, I'm going to show you how to read that script like it's printed in bold, and how to outsmart them without ever playing their game. Part 1. How to read toxic people like a book. Let's be honest. Most people don't realize they're being manipulated. Not because they're weak. Not because they're naive. But because toxic people don't attack head-on. They study you quietly. Like someone skimming the first chapter of a book, trying to understand the main character before the story even starts. And their story always begins the same way. 1. The pinprick test. Toxic people start with what I call pinprick moments. Tiny comments that sound harmless, but land like a needle under the skin. You've heard them before. Relax. You're so tense. Someone woke up sensitive today. It was just a joke. Chill. And then comes the pause. Not to hear your explanation, but to watch your micro-reactions. Your eyebrows. Your half-second freeze. That forced laugh you didn't mean. Because these aren't jokes. They're scanners. Psychology shows that emotional weak points reveal themselves in micro-reactions, and toxic personalities read those signals fast. If shame makes you flinch, they notice. If guilt softens your voice, they log it. If defensiveness makes you ramble, they store that data. Here's what most people miss. The first emotion you react with tells them exactly which button to press later. That's chapter 1. When you spot the joke, that isn't a joke, you're already reading their playbook. 2. The boundary stretch. Next comes the quiet test. Toxic people don't break boundaries. They stretch them, slowly. Like testing a rubber band to see when it snaps. They'll say things like, "Why didn't you reply for hours?" After ignoring you for days. "Can you do me a quick favor?" That's never quick. "Don't be difficult. It's not a big deal. You don't mind if I do this, right?" These aren't requests. They're measurements. Psychology calls this compliance testing. Finding low-friction entry points to push further next time. What they're really reading is this. If you over-explain, you fear being misunderstood. If you go quiet, you hate tension. If you comply to avoid awkwardness, you can be guilt-tripped. That's chapter 2. How far can I go before you push back? 3. The reality flip. And then comes the real control phase. This is where they stop testing you and start rewriting reality. Suddenly you hear, "I never said that. You're remembering it wrong. You're overreacting. You're too emotional. Calm down." Notice what's happening. They're no longer arguing about the situation. They're attacking your ability to interpret reality. That's gaslighting. Not confusion for its own sake, but cognitive disorientation. Once your inner compass shakes, you start looking to them for clarity. And that's how control locks in. Here's the key insight. When someone challenges your memory more than the moment itself, they've moved from reading you to trying to author you. At that point, stop listening to the words. Start reading the pattern. Because now you're not confused. You're decoding. Part 2. How to outsmart them at their own game. Once you see the script, the power shifts. Here's how. 1. Become unreadable. Remember the pinprick tests? The fastest way to beat them is simple. Give them nothing. No flinch. No forced laugh. No defensive tone. Just calm. Neutral. Unbothered. Because toxic people don't feed on the jab. They feed on the data. And when nothing moves, they lose the signal. You become unreadable. And the moment you're unreadable, you're unplayable. Neutrality creates psychological asymmetry. They're trying to study you, but there's nothing to analyze. Their system breaks. 2. Lock your boundaries. This is where most people panic. Outsmarting toxic people doesn't mean explaining yourself. It means holding your line, calmly. No shaking. No justifying. Statements like, "I respond when I'm free. I can't take on anything extra. I'm not being difficult. I'm being clear. That doesn't work for me. I'm not okay with that." Here's why this works. They expect you to bend. They expect guilt. They expect emotional leakage. When your boundary doesn't move, The power flips. Now they have to adjust. 3. Anchor your reality. This is the final move. Gaslighting only works on people who doubt themselves. So instead of arguing, you anchor. When they say, "That never happened," you say, "I remember it differently. We have different memories." And you stop there. No debate. No proof. No emotional pull. Psychologically, this is devastating to manipulators. Gaslighting needs confusion to survive. Confidence starves it. When you refuse to hand them the pen, they can't rewrite your reality. The real win. When you combine all of this: unreadable reactions, unmovable boundaries, unshakable self-trust, something interesting happens. They pull back. Not because they respect you, but because their tactics no longer work. And here's the real victory. You don't beat them at their game. You make the game irrelevant. You stop reacting. You start choosing. You stop absorbing. You start observing. That's how you outsmart toxic people. Not by overpowering them, but by becoming unreachable. Now I want to hear from you. What's the sneakiest way someone has ever tested your boundaries? Drop it in the comments. Let's decode it together. And if you want to stay polite while completely shutting down gossip traps, watch the next video. It's about staying untouchable without losing your calm.